Good news. What will this mean for Bristol Rugby?
Well, the key is this gives us financial stability. Steve's financial muscle will allow us, to not have to go to the bank go to the bank, can't go to the bank. It's been a lonely place for me over the last few years. Obviously, there's been a lot of financial support from a number of benefactors, but I've had to lead that charge, and it's quite tough. So it's nice to have a friend involved, but clearly with his financial position, that means the club is in great shape going forward.
How involved will he be?
Steve is not going to be involved very much. I think it's pretty well the same as he's demonstrated with his Bristol City involvement since he's moved to Guernsey. Clearly he's very interested in the budgets, and we have set a very robust budget which we will work to get us back into the Premiership. And that is, we're looking at a 3-year period. I think that again is the key with this financial stability. We can actually look 3 years forward. Whereas historically over the last few years, really we're just looking to make sure we can pay our bills every month. And so obviously what that allows us to do is, it's a cash flow debate that you can smooth that through. So, but Steve's a friend of mine. We speak all the time. I'm actually a Bristol City supporter, so I see him at the Bristol City games as well. So we meet and talk quite often, and he's very interested. I think that's yet a key thing for me, because I've always seen myself as a custodian of this club while I've been in charge, and I'm still in charge in effect. And it's been great so that we see a real Bristolian with passion for sport as a majority shareholder, and he's a long-term player, as we've seen with his commitment to Bristol City. So I feel very secure in that we have a majority shareholder who's going to help us and be here a long time.
Are you looking at the possibility of a ground share?
As we've said in our announcement, and Steve understands, Steve's been involved for 3 years. He sees and I see our spiritual home as the Men. We've been there a long time. Of course, the club used to own it. So that's our spiritual home. We're certainly going to be there next season. That's contracted. Obviously, there's, talk of UE for Bristol Rovers and the new stadium for Bristol City, but both of these are subject to quite complex planning issues, as has been well documented. So I think that's we have to look at that in the future, but certainly in the short term we'll be staying at the Men.
But you are looking at a possibility in the future?
Not specifically, no. We have an open mind. At the moment we have one focus, that is to win this championship, because that is absolutely the most important thing for us. We have clearly a fantastic window of opportunity this season, and of course if we get back into the Premiership, the financial model becomes so much better, and stability in its own right, because Steve will talk about, as I will talk about, ultimately we want this club, and he will want Bristol City to be self-sustaining, and that's the only way to do that, is to be in the Premiership.
How critical is his financial input?
Well, certainly when he came in 3 years ago, it was absolutely critical. The club, we were in serious financial difficulties, and the club may not have survived. It was that serious. So at that point was critical. He's continued to support us, along with myself and other benefactors. But obviously, since he's been involved, it's been much more stable in its own right. As we've seen, we had a horrible season last year, of course, recovering while we were putting it right. But we've put all the foundations in place this season with a new coach, a coaching staff, and we can see a fantastic spirit around the place with the players, the supporters, the business community. So we're all in. It's all in good shape, really. So it has really been started 3 years ago. So we've just really announced it now because we felt it was appropriate to confirm Steve's involvement and secure it for the long term.
You can reveal the identity of the White Knight.
The White Knight, yeah. I think I came up with that awful, unambitious title, but we had to do it quickly. And that was Steve's decision, which we respect. And I think, his logic was he was looking to make sure that we could get the thing on a sensible basis before he fully committed and agreed to the business plans we now have. So. But as we all know, Steve is quite a reserved and quiet man, but the important thing, he's passionate about what we're doing.
Do you think it poses any challenges that he's going to have his fingers in both pies in Bristol?
No, I think he sees. I mean, obviously, somebody like Steve has a huge number of business assets. This is just another asset for him. He's clearly a very shrewd operator. His business acumen, so he will be very clear. And knowing him as well as I do, he'll be very clear on what he's intending to do. He has both clubs set up now that they're run without him, without his day-to-day involvement. And I think that's right and proper. So he's clearly involved at the strategic level and been involved in our planning of what we're doing, but has been quite happy to and actually insisted that I stay along with Steve Corvette to fulfil our joint dreams.
Are we going to see him here? Is he going to be a visible part of the process?
Yeah, he comes to the occasional game. I think, as he's already said, his first love is still football, but he's beginning to enjoy it, and he's been with me several times and does enjoy it, and he's going to come more often.
Now, why did he decide to finally? 3 years now he's been involved. Finally announced, but why did he opt to invest?
Well, I think what we see is clearly we have a real opportunity to get promoted. We're not stressing, I'm going to stress it, it's not the be-all and end-all. If we don't do it this year, we'll do it next year. But I think what that means is we've got to start making longer-term commitments and plans. And so it was right and proper that this is the time for him to actually become involved. And to be honest, it's been a worst-kept secret. Everybody in sport has been, and I've been continually asked about his involvement, and I had to cross my fingers and say no, because I needed to respect his wishes. And he became uncomfortable with that as well, I think.
To reach the top flights, you'll need this investment. The Memorial Ground, will it be enough for Premiership?
Well, as we've discussed, clearly there are smaller grounds in the Premiership, and Bristol Rovers have their plans to go to UAE, so and Bristol City to go to Aston Villa. So I think what will be great for Bristol Sport is that both of those stadiums get built, and that gives puts us in a new stadium.